All right, coming back at you. I got my Blood Raven shirt on, my new haircut, beard all nice and everything like that. So I'm going to make a little video. I'll be posting this around. And today I am going to tell you about a game that is absolutely awesome. No longer in print as far as I know, but you can still get it out there in places and that everyone should play. And that game is well, here's a couple of parts of it. The Fellowship newsletter. Okay, you're probably guessing it by now. How about, did you ever want to go to Moria? Because you could. I wouldn't suggest it, though. This place is crawling full of monsters that will flat out eat your face off, including the Balrog if you're playing during the Third Age before the Fellowship. And then I've got my second printing. Not that the rules changed. It's just they need to print some more, and they changed the cover. And, of course, my original box set that I bought at the Coliseum of Comics used for $2. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I will show you close up. Coliseum Comics. $2. Of course, I bought this thing like in '90, so, And it is pretty beat up, but whatever. Opening it up. Hey. There's a little bit of wear, right? A little bit of wear, but whatever. That thing's perfectly readable. And it's got all the pieces in it. Amazing, right? You got this little mini adventure thing, a little what's what and how to do this and that. There's like a little adventure where it's like, you do this. Oh, if you choose to do this, go to this paragraph and you can go back and forth until you die or not. And then it talks about how to make how to start your first multiplayer adventure. I'm getting on. I'm not really brigands. This is another little adventure. You've got a little area here. This is Folkwane's house, which apparently is way up on top of a hill. And then you've got a submerged walkway. I don't know what all this is, but it's cool. You got Sifka's map of the troll shawls. All right, you got your little damage record sheet so you can keep track of who's getting their butts whipped. And then this bad boy right here. That's right. Middle-earth role-playing character sheet. Look at that monster. Actually, it might look complicated. It's super easy, so we'll get into that. All right. Middle-earth role-playing, and personally, I prefer this cover. You got the whole Fellowship there, looking all badass and, like Tolkien intended them. The art in this book is just much better, too. I mean, there's a picture of... let's see if I can show it to you. Oh, this way, ain't you? Okay. There's Arwen. There's Aragorn. And bear in mind, these books were made, 30 years before the movies or some such, so things may have changed. All right, so what is the deal with this thing? You can play it Third Age, you can play it Second Age, you can even play it First Age if you want to get real crazy with it. You can play it Third Age, before or after the Fellowship. I mean, you really can do whatever you want. It is Middle-earth, and it has all the races you expect. So there's 3 types of elf, Sylvan, Sindar, and Noldar, so your Grey Elves and your High Elves. There's about 8 kinds of human, including the Dunedain. There's a couple types of orc, Mordor orc versus Moria orc, or they're not called Moria orcs, they're called Misty Mountain orcs or whatever. You got a couple types of trolls. You got your little guys, you got your little halflings, you've got an actual race of dwarves that live in the far frozen north called the Umli. And you got your various monsters and whatnot. So this is something everybody knows. Everybody knows what this is pretty much in the whole world, right? Let me move that. I don't know if that would be recorded, but I had the cursor right. So pretty much everybody knows what this is. And this thing, like I said, I bought it for $2 used from the Cosima Comics about 30 years ago. But I don't need that book. So I'll just put it up. And like I said, it's beat up. This thing was produced in 1986. And I'm pretty sure I bought this thing around it was the early 90s when I bought this thing from them. Cosima Comics used to do a thing where they would trade old games in and sell them and all this kind of thing. And I was notorious for trading off stuff I didn't like and then buying stuff they happen to have. And this was one of those things. It says here that it was made, well, this is, of course, Iron Crown Enterprises, the same company that I believe was out of Charlottesville, Carolina, that made Rollmaster, Space Master, and the million books that went with both of those lines. Anyway, we're at 6 minutes, so it's time to get to the meat of this thing. How does this game work? This game runs on a percentile system, except it's an open-ended percentile system. The book itself actually says roll 2 die 20, and you just ignore the tens digit. So if you rolled a 0, 1 and a 19, that would be a 19. Easy enough, right? By open-ended, for most skill checks that you're going to do, if you roll a 96 or higher, you re-roll the percentile dice and you add them to whatever you rolled. If you roll a 0.5 or between a 0.1 and a 0.5, then you roll again and deduct it. So, and you keep doing that. So if you just keep rolling those 96s, 97s, you keep adding them exponentially. The reason that's a thing is a skill check, which includes attacking, right? How you attack in this game is you have your offensive bonus, which is determined by your attributes and your skill with the particular weapon. As I showed you, that character chart has all the little boxes. Every time you go up a rank in a skill, up to a point, that adds plus 5% to your roll. And then your attributes can add bonuses as well. So if you're like really strong, you can have up to a plus 25 strength bonus. You roll your percentile die and you add all of your bonuses, and then you deduct whoever you're attacking's defensive bonuses. Defensive bonuses are generally not that high. So, you know, so basically I think your typical orc has a defensive bonus of 10. And if they're using a shield, then they can choose to use a portion of their offensive bonus as their defensive bonus. But then when they attack, they have to use that new offensive total. So if their offensive bonus is 60 and they use 30 of it with the shield to defend themselves from an attack, when it's their turn to attack, they only have plus 30. Now, the reason that's a whole thing is, and I will show you because I'm a show and tell kind of guy, right? When you attack, you determine, so one hand slashing weapon, one hand concussion. Here's your charts. I don't know if you'll be able to see them very well, but there they are, right? And you determine what you're attacking. And by what, I mean armor. And the armor types are plate chain, rigid leather, soft leather, or none. So you roll those dice, bloom, you add your total, you deduct your opponent's defensive bonus, and then you cross-reference. So if I were, say I'm playing a warrior and I've got a plus 30, because we're saying pretty low-level guy, he's got a plus 30 offensive bonus maybe. He's kind of strong. He's got a couple of ranks in his one-hand slashing weapon, which could be any one-hand slashing weapon. So any type of one-handed sword, one-handed axes, scimitars, sabers, whatever. Use it one hand and it relies on slashing. I'm attacking an orc that is, say, wearing rigid leather armor. So I roll my dice, and then I deduct. Get my total, and I deduct their defensive bonus. Whatever is left, I consult this chart. So let's say I roll pretty good. I roll like a 97. I add my 30 offensive bonus. So now I've got, 127. I deduct their defensive 10. They don't have a shield. They're going all out, two-handed sword, whatever. So that puts me at, 127, right? Right. No, 117. It was 127. So looking at my chart, 117 against rigid leather says that I've scored 15 points of damage. The higher you roll, the more the damage you do. But not only that, 15 points of damage, but I have done a C crit. C crits are just straight crit rolls, no bonus or penalty. So turning the page over, and you do have to consult some tables. Some people may not like this, other people love it. But I turn my table over to the slash crit, right? And then I roll those percentiles again with no modifier. And just to say whatever, let's say, boom, I roll 20. Not great. So looking at this chart, 20 is, I do a minor calf wound. He takes a point of damage per round until it's treated because he's bleeding. If I roll a, boom, 81. Well, that's a little bit better. Let's see what an 81 is for a slash crit. Slash muscle and tendons in the weapon arm. That arm is useless. They take 10 hits and 1 hit per round. Plus they drop their weapon. So at that point, I'm feeling pretty good against this orc. If I get that crit, I'm like, boom, he's dropping his weapon. His arm is useless. He's going to have to use his offhand. He's bleeding. Not too bad. But let's say I'm like 100 because I'm badass. It's a nat 100, right? Looking here, let's see. On a slash crit 100, slash the side. Target is down, unconscious, and will die in 3 rounds due to massive internal organ damage. And there you go. And crits work that way with all attacks. They work that way with spells even. You've got spell crits that can do different things. This game's magic system, there are a lot of different types of magic. And they're powered by a resource called Essence, which is like your power points. It's how connected you are with magic. Also, even though there are starting classes, there's very little from like a warrior can learn spells from the open spell chart, but only one, I think, school. And your spell charts, you have like elemental, plant, animal, like that. Spells, there's your monsters too, wights, werewolves, wargs. But when casting spells in this game, you actually can spend your essence points to cast a spell in a more powerful way, which makes it more difficult to cast, but it allows you to extend the range of it, extend the duration, maybe do more damage if it's a damage spell, like that. So it's a really interesting system. And like I said, if it seems a little complicated at first because you're getting a total and deducting a total and consulting a chart, once you've done it 3 times, it becomes second nature, and whoever's running the game, if you got a laptop or something, you got this as a PDF, which I think you can get it as a PDF, but I'm not going to say 100% on that one. Then you can just have that page open and it flies. So the other thing about this game is it is a complete game. And what that means is you don't need anything else. I mean, you can buy the books, the source books like Moria or the Far Harad or all these things, and they're all awesome. If you can find them on eBay or something or in a used bookstore, every one of them is pretty good. Especially the Rohan book was really good, but very difficult to get now. But there are charts for encounters, setting up campsites, the weather. You can tactical actions like how you move, or how far you can move if you're going to do an action. So if you're going to cast a spell, you can only move 10 feet. If you're going to do an attack, then it depends at what kind of attack you're going to do, whether you're going to charge into combat or be more tactical and defend yourself or whatever. So I'm at the spell thing here, just to and like I said, I'm keeping this video very short. We're almost done. So if you cast a spell without preparing the spell, you suffer a minus 30 to your spell cast, which means you're a lot more likely to fail, and you can fumble in this game. Which means if let's say you got that minus 30 and you roll a 0.5, which means you've got to roll that percentile again and deduct it again. You could end up in the big negatives, and that would be a fumble. And then you'd have to roll on a spell fumble chart to see if you blow yourself up. It's rare. I mean, it's not something that's often going to happen. These are my reading glasses. It's not something that's often going to happen, but it can happen. And the more rounds you spend preparing the spell, the easier it gets to cast the spell, until you get to, if you spend 4 rounds preparing a spell, you actually get plus 20 to cast a spell in addition to your spell bonus. So, there's that. And then, like I said, you can spend your power to increase your spell. What happens, though, is you have a basic school of magic. And I'm looking at it right here. You've got spell ways, essence, spirit mastery, essence ways as opposed to essence hands, essence perceptions, physical enhancements, the unbarring ways, illusions, fire law, ice law, water law, light law, wind law, earth law, living change, the lofty bridge, nature's guises, moving ways, item lore, sound control, lore, controlling songs, path mastery, nature's ways, calming spirits, surface ways, detection mastery, sound light ways, nature's movement, protections, spell defense, nature's lore. We could be here all day reading this. Blood ways, purification, bone and muscle ways, organ ways, plant mastery, direct channeling, creations, and animal mastery. So I don't know how many that was, but there's a lot of them. And within each of those lines, so let's say I'm just going to pick one. Essence ways is in front of me, right? So essence ways is your spell line, and there's 10 spells in there, or 10 effects that you can do. Like the very lowest level one is detect essence. You can detect any item or active spell from the essence realm. Each round, caster can concentrate on any 5-foot radius area within range. And the range of that is 100 feet. So you cast a spell, you concentrate on an area, and you're detecting magic is basically what it is. The 10th spell is affects one item, instantaneous, range touch, gives significant detail about an item's construction and purpose, but not specific powers. So with this ability, you could pick up that elven dagger, and then you could know how it was constructed, where it was constructed, and why it was constructed. So if you were to touch Sting, you could be like, it was created by the elves during the Second Age to fight the goblins. I'm pretty sure that was the thing with Sting. And it goes on, like physical enhancements. You can actually, well, here, water lungs, level 9. Target can breathe water as if it were normal air. That's, or the 9th spell in that list. It affects one target, duration 10 minutes per level, and range of 10 feet. However, remember what I said, if you roll really good on a spell cast, you can affect more targets, you can affect duration, you can affect range. And you can also spend essence to affect these things. Um, and you've got your combat spells here too, like Fire Law. Let's look at Fire Law. Well, the first ones you can just boil inanimate liquid. That might be good if you're out on the road, you're hiding out from some goblins, and you want to cook. You want to heat up some tea. So you boil a little liquid. It's 1 cubic foot of liquid per level, and as I learned in Fire Academy, a cubic foot is a gallon. A cubic foot of water is a gallon. So, and at higher levels, all right, you can, let's see, warm solid, wood fire, wall of fire. You create an opaque wall of fire up to 10 foot by 10 foot by 6 inches. So 10 foot wide, 10 foot tall, 6 inches thick. And it'll hurt people that try running through it. They take an A heat crit. So, A is a -20 on a crit table. But if you roll high enough on that crit table to get an 80, I mean, you're still talking about burning somebody's skin right off. So that's not good. Call Flame, Firebolt. That's the 6th spell in this line. A bolt of fire shot from the palm of the caster. Results are determined on the bolt attack table, which works just like the attack table. So you roll your dice, you add your spell bonuses, you deduct your opponent's resistance if they have any, consult the table and determine how much damage you do, and if you do a crit. If you do a crit, then you roll on the fire table to see what you do. And that could be, depending on what you roll, everything up to incinerating them down to a skeleton to maybe causing some blisters or something. Nothing big. You got Aura Flame, Circle Flame, Fireball. You can throw a 1 foot diameter fireball out there and cause it to explode. When it explodes at the point chosen, it affects everything within 10 feet of the location that you choose. So 20 feet basically across, 10 feet. And that's pretty much how spells work. And that's pretty much how the game works. That's the whole game right there. If you wanted to climb up a really hard to climb cliff, let's say you're like running from some wargs or something, and you run up on a cliff or maybe some really tall pine trees, something like that, and you need to get up there, right? I'm looking for the character sheet. Pretty much the DM, because you got general skills, you've got your weapon skills, general skills, subterfuge skills, magical skills, and your miscellaneous skills. Climb is one of them. So the GM could just tell you, okay, roll a skill check, and you roll that percentile. You add your skill bonus, which according to this is affected by agility. So if you have an agility bonus, you can add that. And then there's proficiency bonuses. Certain classes or just get better proficiency bonuses at certain things. And hopefully you beat the target number. And the more you beat the target number, the better you do. So super easy. Super flexible. You need 2 die 10. Even though it says roll die 20s, obviously you can just use die 10s. You can use die 100 if you want, really, but I find those things just roll around like golf balls, so I don't bother with them, even though I own one. And that's it. That is it. You pick your character. Different races have different abilities. Like the Dunedain get a lot of bonuses, but they don't get a lot of background points. Whereas a normal human doesn't get as many bonuses as a Dunedain, like racial bonuses, but they get background points that you can use to improve your character in other ways. So it all kind of balances out. If you play a Sylvan Elf, you're basically playing Legolas. If you play a High Elf, that would be Galadriel. Sindar, the Grey Elves, I don't remember any often. Well, I think Elrond actually might have been Sindar. Dwarves are dwarves. Hobbits are hobbits, and you can call them halflings, but they're hobbits. And like I said, there's like 10 types of humans. You can be from the Far Harad, you can be a Varrig, you can be a Dark Numenorian, which is a Corsair, from the south. Rohirrim, you can be an Easterling, you can be just the common men, the Dunlending, you can be from Gondor, when you can, there's two types of guys that aren't even bound by a culture. You can choose to be a rural human, which is just an average human that grew up in a rural area, or you can choose to be an urban human, which is your average human that grew up in a city. And these things come with different skill packages and advantages. Then you pick your class, which is warrior, thief, bard, ranger, mage. There are no clerics in this game. Healing is actually a magic thing. So a mage, or honestly a warrior, if they chose to learn the healing spell line, you know, and your class determines what starting skills you're going to get. But once play begins, you can pretty much spend XP to raise just about anything you want. So I'm not sure where you can find this anymore. Like I said, I've had mine forever. And I'm pretty sure this I bought used, but I'm not sure where. Maybe Costume Comics. Because I'm pretty sure this came in a box set originally too. Like this is the first run, and this is the second print run. Charlotte, let's see. Oh, it's got the copyright at 1984, but I know I didn't buy it then. Okay. I would have been like 11. But they're great games. They're fantasy games, but they're not D&D. And as I keep saying, I love Dungeons and Dragons, especially TSR era Dungeons and Dragons. But it's important to play other games. You know, I think it is. You know, it will make you understand the systems behind these games and why certain things work. And maybe, you know, you might pick up Middle Earth role playing and fall in love with that percentile system. You might be the kind of guy that kind of gets off on the fact that a common orc with a short bow hiding behind a rock, if he rolls 100 followed by another 90 something or 100, he's rolling on that E crit. And that means die, you know, he's rolling that percentile dice plus 20. So you could, in theory, play a character for a year-long campaign, spend all your points, have your mithril shirt, just be the baddest of badasses. You know, you've slain a dragon, maybe, you know, wedgied the Balrog or whatever you've been up to. And then you walk out of Moria one day to get a drink of water, and an orc luckily shoots you an eyeball and kills you dead. This can seriously happen in this game. It would be super rare, but it could happen. And that makes combat in MERPs and any of the Rollmaster games something you really want to think about. It's not like D&D where you're like, well, I got 90 hit points, why not? Because in this game, it just doesn't work that way. Anyway, that is my game review for Middle Earth Role-Playing by Iron Crown Enterprises. I don't even know if they're still around. I think they might be. I think they make Harp. They may have lost the rights to Middle Earth, and then they just started making Harp, I think. But it's an awesome game. People should play it. So that's me. Out. Peace and love, and play a lot of games.